We're good.
All right, what's going on, fellow park enthusiasts? The Park Geeks here, and we are going to be finishing off the month of October, talking about a few other haunts that were featured in the state of Florida. I'm here with Kurt and Daniel. Raul will be joining us here in any minute. These two are going to talk about Howl-O-Scream. That's what they had a chance to go to, except Kurt was able to do both locations. Well, I'm going to be talking about a local haunt out in Dade City called Screamageddon. So let's go ahead and get this started off first here. Daniel, this was actually your first Howl-O-Scream, right?
Yes, first, and it's actually the second year that Orlando has hosted a Howl-O-Scream event. The other Howl-O-Scream events, I believe, since 2013 have been at Busch Gardens. But yeah, for me, brand new event, and I took a coworker with me, and I'll recount his experiences as well. I did record some reactions, so if you guys want that, I can definitely put that up later.
Mm-hmm. Kurt, what was your reaction to both locations with Howl-O-Scream?
Well, I guess we should point out that both of them are totally different events. They're not. There's absolutely no duplication between them whatsoever. The scare zones are different. The entertainment's different. The houses are different. There's just nothing. They share nothing except the name. Just to make that clear.
Right.
And the difference between them, strangely, is like night and day. I mean, Busch Gardens Tampa has been doing it for quite a number of years, so they've got a pretty good event going there. But as Daniel said, the SeaWorld event is new. This is only the second year they've been doing it. Comparing the two, though, the Busch Gardens event is just head and shoulders beyond what SeaWorld is doing, which kind of surprised me. I was kind of expecting them to be kind of on par, but it's the same company running them. Mm-hmm. I expected them to be a similar level of quality, but SeaWorld is like way behind, where everybody else is, which seems strange to me and seems unusual. I think that's their biggest weakness, because SeaWorld is kind of like metaphorically and literally between a rock and a hard place, right? They're right between, Universal Horror Nights, and you've got Disney's with, Mickey's Not So Scary on the other side, and they're right in between there, and they have what I would call a barely mediocre Halloween event.
Ooh.
I think that really. I don't quite understand what their directions. They need to do something different for sure. I don't know what that is. They're never going to be able to top Universal. They could go the family-friendly route, but I don't see how they're ever going to top Disney, what Disney does for the family-friendly event. So I'm not sure what they're going to do, but they need to do something that's a hell of a lot better than what they are doing right now. Because I thought it was really lackluster. It has potential, but I just felt the event was very lackluster overall.
Right.
So what do you think of it, Daniel?
Oh yeah, there's definitely a big number of flaws with it. I think one of the biggest that comes my way is just the weird in and out of the park. Instead of going through the main entrance, they kind of fun you in through like the backside. So I mean, okay, that kind of helps with I guess the flow as far as you're getting people out of the park for people to come in later. But at the same time, it's like you're not utilizing the whole space you have in the park. And because of that, finding any decent food or drink option was definitely very difficult. The bars were cool to go into with the theming and stuff, but if I wanted, some themed snack or theme anything over there, it was terrible because it was just like stuff I get at a gas station. If I want some ice cream, it's like, oh, here, open up the freezer, just pick up what you want, that's it. Or just take, typical like savory burgers or hot dogs or whatever. It was nothing special. Nothing special to what you would find at like Horror Nights, where I'm sure even Busch Gardens has done the food option better. So that immediately stood. I know it's not really supposed to be a major thing, but that was definitely an annoyance for me and my friend that night. And as far as the actual layout, I think houses were definitely way too spread apart, and the scare zones were certainly a little bit too dark. Like I think the lighting in them could have been a lot better. Like there's one where you go through behind the Orca Stadium or something, and it's like this ambush alley, and you can kind of see where the actors are coming from a mile away. There were some that kind of spooked me from the bushes, but other than that, the scare actors are very spaced out. They didn't really get in your face much. Even when there was a lot of people going through, it just seemed really last minute and not really well put together. Very minimally themed for the scare zones.
Yeah, I think the problem with the scare zones, they were too wide and there weren't enough set pieces in them. So it's just this kind of like this big dark area and there's some actors in there, which is great. But like you said, you can see everything coming from a mile away.
There was a couple good ones. Like
Yeah,
I thought the Pirates one was pretty neat towards that end of the park. And they also did a pretty good job with the one by the shark encounter, where it was like Poseidon's statue or whatever, like the makeup, the lighting, a lot of good fog effects. That event, there was like fog machines everywhere, even more than Horror Nights was. Like it was insane the amount they relied on that, and it got a little annoying actually towards the end. So it was just certainly just again felt a little cheap, slapped together, um, and not that really memorable for the scare zones really.
yeah, yeah. I kind of felt that way too. I think they're kind of trying, but it's just not there.
I will give them credit though for their shows and offerings. They have I guess four theme experiences. I only got to see three of them, or actually just two of them. One is a paid experience. It's just a cabaret. It's another theme bar, so I'm guessing it's okay. But you don't go there for the spooky factor. It's just more, hot women, and you drink with them, I guess. But the other two shows, Monster Stomp, that was really good.
Yeah,
that was
that
like,
was good.
yeah, great music choices, great costumes. It actually had a more cohesive story than the Nightfire event assault HHN, honestly. And that's like the only thing I'll put Howl-O-Scream over HHN for, just the cohesiveness, the show choice, the acts that they were doing. Yeah, I mean, you don't have a lot of pyro in there, but everyone was having a good time on stage, great moments, great choreography on stage. So it was a very entertaining show to watch for sure. And the whole dancing skeletons with neon lights, yeah, I'd watch it again. I think you guys would enjoy that show. Just a lot of fun. Not really that scary, but just fun. Very, very fun.
Yeah, it was not a really horror show for much. It was an entertainment show. It was very well done. It certainly they put a lot of effort into very good production standards with that one.
Yeah, they typically run a lot of good shows in there. Christmas time or like other events, they do a good job. And the other show, I'm sorry, my last point before we get to the houses. The other show was called Siren Song, and it's right outside the WoW Arctic area, and they have 5 scaffoldings that surround the audience. There's no show building or anything. You just stand in the middle near the fountain, and you just watch. Admittedly, they weren't saying anything. It was all pre-recorded script, but again, all these characters there, even with their okay costume stuff, were having a great time and they were getting into the theme, and it was all nautical theme too. So it was really cool seeing like a live sacrifice and just actors doing their thing on stage, like plants in the audience being pulled up to be sacrificed as well, and it's just a really cool interactive show that I feel like it could be an evolution of Scare Zones, honestly, if they just want to do something like that. Like what they were doing
Yeah.
with the Sorceress. Like, have more of that to give people reason to stay and watch instead of just kind of meander your way through. I think that's a really, really cool idea that, again, Howl-O-Scream gets a point for.
All right, and welcoming back Raul. Raul, what were some of your what'd you think of Halloween Horror Nights this year overall?
I enjoyed it. I knew it wasn't going to be as crazy as last year, in a sense, because last year was the 30th anniversary. Usually, once they go,
We had a Beetlejuice house.
Yes.
they did
That's
have the
one-
Beetlejuice house, but also last year's houses, a lot of them, in a way, suffered. Not necessarily suffered, but it took away because of the plexiglass and the mask wearing. Which, again, for me, I understand why the reason is. But yes, I guess because being so used to all the houses, previous years, everything normal, it took it out. Other houses worked better with it compared to, let's say, Beetlejuice. But Beetlejuice was a great house. Don't get me wrong. But I knew this year wasn't going to be as crazy as no. It wouldn't be as crazy because usually once they finish an anniversary year, they go a little bit lighter on some of the content. So I liked it. Like, I enjoyed the scare zones because they were going for like an 80s like style of like Halloween, like 80s, 70s style. The graveyard is my favorite scare zone. The
Absolutely.
one by Jason Bourne. For me, I love Nightmare Fuel. I love the actors. I've actually got to meet the performers. They're all nicest people. And fun fact, a couple of the dancers for Nightmare Fuel also play Who's during the Grinchmas show.
Oh, really?
That's another good show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some of them, of course, also work in SeaWorld and a couple here and there at Disney. Like, in the circle of entertainment within the theme parks, a lot of them will jump between the different parks.
Well, you'll be disappointed to know that Kurt does not like Nightmare Fuel over Bill and Ted.
I don't like Bill and Ted.
Wait,
No, you prefer Bill and Ted over Nightmare Fuel.
the way you
I
worded it.
didn't like it. I just said that it wasn't good. Wasn't as good as Bill and Ted's.
Now, as far as Screamageddon goes, this thing is out in the middle of nowhere. It's located in Dade City, and it was roughly like a 2-hour drive from where I was staying at in Orlando. But I was still curious to check it out just because you do have to sign a waiver to let them touch you. So I was very curious to see this because I want something that was going to up the ante here a little bit. I get there and it takes place in like an abandoned cow pasture. No cows, so no smell of manure. That's a plus.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
And I'm seeing like the kind of signs that you would see hanging above like a circus. I'm seeing some painting of a clown, a box office, lines to get in, the waivers you have to sign. And I'm thinking, okay, this could be interesting. And as soon as I step into this place, I do like how they used the environment to their advantage. Like they have a house that is located like all the way back in the woods. That really helps. And they had another one that was in 3D, which we've seen that before, but very few, I think, ever really utilize it that well. These guys definitely did. And they even had this paintball thing you could do where you could actually pay to go on this zombie course. Like literally, they put you in a bus that's been gutted. There's a line of paintball guns, and you get to shoot at their scare actors. And the paintballs are what was the word you used? Fluorescent?
Yeah.
Was that the word you
dark,
used?
fluorescent. Yes.
Yeah. So that you can see, when you fire your gun, you can see that paintball travel. And that was just a lot of fun. It really felt like I was in Dawn of the Dead, maybe even Land of the Dead.
Nice.
Just being in one of those, gutted out buses that's all armored up. That was a ton of fun. But let's go ahead and move on to some of the houses here. Daniel and Kurt, why don't you guys talk a little bit about the houses featured at the SeaWorld Howl-O-Scream?
Okay.
Yeah. So at this event, there were 2 new houses, 5 total, 1 reimagined house, and 2 returning houses. So I did my best to just kind of go through them to the order which I think I enjoyed from like least to most, and I was generally correct just based on my prediction. So the first house I did that night was like towards the Mako area. It was called Captain's Revenge: Drowned in Darkness. So
I think they had that one last year.
Yeah, they did have that one last year. So that's why I said it's a returning house. And yeah, this definitely did not set the tone right for the night. Like I felt like this was a house that just really wasn't scary at all. Just kind of walking through there. The actors just trying to make some jokes, trying to get in your face, getting that whole pirate spirit. But it wasn't really anything memorable, really. The theme just kind of expected, just creepy pirates, a lot of banging on metal bars and stuff. And yeah, like I can only remember it. A lot of dark walls. Sometimes you'll walk into a room with like cool looking treasure and stuff, but it doesn't last long. Like it seems like they did have the space, but they didn't really fill it up or make it feel claustrophobic enough to really make it feel like a really good house. So
yeah, well, that's actually one of my complaints about all the SeaWorld houses are really short.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they have such large space to work with too.
Yeah,
the other ironic thing.
They got the space, And it was even more apparent when I went to the next house called Dead Vine's Root of All Evil. So I'm not sure how different it is from the previous house, but this is the house where they introduced something kind of new at these Screamageddon events, where not Screamageddon, House Scream events, where there's a scare actor on a bungee cord that kind of just jumps out at you and jumps back, and it happened twice. So
Oh yeah.
they were in ghillie suits, so they did a good job of kind of camouflaging with the plants. But outside the ghillie suits, again, it just followed kind of the same formula. A lot of like vines that get in your way, some creepy plants that pop out, um, and just again, it's a lot of open areas. Some rooms are just empty of scare actors. It was like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
The the only thing that was really good about this is that instead of a conga line, SeaWorld pushes people through in small groups of like 12 to 20. So they'll send people in, they'll wait about 30 seconds, they'll send the next group in. So that way you can get all the scares. But even with that, it still felt very sparse.
Yeah.
Um,
Very.
Sparse and repetitive. Like, it seemed kind of amateur. So do you remember much about that house, Kurt? Dead Vines?
No, Dead Vines. Not a whole lot. I mean, frankly, all the houses are kind of forgettable,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yep.
There's really not. I mean, it was okay. I think for many of them, I kind of had the same complaint. They kind of fail to establish the environment. You don't really feel, like that you're in that world, sort of, so to speak.
Mhm.
One of the things I did notice, though, which I thought was interesting, I remember the first time I went to Universal, I was really surprised. I was, wow, they really got the volume cranked up, and all the sound effects and everything. And you go to someplace like SeaWorld, and there's almost like nothing going on as far as audio, and you can see what a difference it makes for establishing
Oh, yeah.
a sense of environment.
There was
Like it's like,
some ambience, but not much.
yeah, and I think it really hurts them too. I didn't realize how much that has an impact until I went to SeaWorld when the volume was so low or non-existent sound effects. And you compare that to Universal. I mean, yeah, you almost need earplugs on some of the Universal's houses, but it works. I got now that I kind of seen the comparison, you really do need the volume up that loud to create the environment.
Especially when you got conga lines going through, people screaming and doing all this stuff.
Yeah, right. It muffles it covers up the sound of what's happening like in the next room.
Yep. So the other houses that were there was one. The only other remaining one was Beneath the Ice that was returning. So this takes place in a wild Arctic queue. And honestly, this surprised me. I thought this would be a really terrible house, but because there's already theming in there for like an Arctic base, that helped to its advantage. So I was immersed. It's just some of the same problems. I think the scares are definitely weakest in that house, but I think it sold the theme pretty well of like murderers at this base gone awry. Like you see people chained up and kind of rattling stuff. It's just that when you're resorting to scares, just being on a metal drum or sliding a thing across a ribbed wall, it's just really lame. And obvious corners where they're gonna jump out at you. Um, but there was definitely more noise in there. Like there was like alarms blaring and more ambience in there and things cracking, and so I feel like I can understand why they kept that house because they have that space for nothing else. While Arctic has been an attraction, I think that was put out to pasture a couple years ago, and yeah, like that house didn't really do much for me. But to me, that was probably like their second or third best house of the night.
Yeah, I think I got unlucky when I went through that one because there was hardly any actors in when I went through. I think like everybody was on break or something. I went through like a number of rooms and there's nobody in them.
Oh
It was just me walking by myself. I said, okay, this is not really interesting. Because they, like I said, they were metering people through. Since I was by myself, a lot of times they sent me through alone, which is fine.
Yeah.
But so I'm walking through this one, and I'm walking through like there's a totally empty room. And I'm kind of, well, okay. Then I go to the next one. There's like another totally empty room. And then there's finally an actor in like the third room. It's kind of like, okay, I'm just walking through rooms here at this point.
Yeah. But there's a glimmer of hope because the new houses actually did some things that you're starting to get their footing. There's one where it's like a creepy cruise ship called Siren of the Seas, and I think that one had the best set design of the night. It had a good facade outside. It was just way too short. It was the shortest house of the night, but it was definitely a very sweet experience.
Yeah, they were all short.
Yeah, meeting the captain, having some puppetry in there at last, things that pop out of the wall at you. So they were starting to get their groove here, but it just ended way too soon, and it dropped you way close to the beginning of the park. So if you want to get back in line for Howls, you had to walk past Icebreaker again, and that was definitely kind of annoying if you wanted to keep
Yeah,
repeating
there
the
was a lot of
house.
walking that night.
Yep. And the last one's called Blood Beckoning. And this new house was my favorite of the night because, as much as we crapped on emptiness in the house, I think the silence in the library at the beginning of this house worked well to its advantage because it's just you have this nice facade outside and there's like nothing going on inside, but it's like noises and stuff. No, nothing going on, and then all of a sudden you enter this creepy room and there's this character right there. So, kind of fooling you at that sense. Like there is some power in silence, but you have to know how to use it well. And I feel like if they can really extrapolate that for other houses, and especially for this whole experience where they had the most scare actors in the most varied areas, perhaps there is hope. But since they're not changing out every single house every year, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't think this is an event that I will attend for probably 4 or 5 years from now.
Oh yeah, there's no reason. There's no reason to go back to SeaWorld's Howl-O-Scream at all. I don't think.
I agree.
I disagree because the person that's in charge, it was a former Universal creative with Halloween Horror Nights, so this is only their second year, and Universal also was still learning when they first started doing their thing, Knott's Berry Farm. So the first few years are gonna be rough regardless. So once they find their footing, is when I feel like their event could be good. Maybe not matching Halloween Horror Nights level, but I feel like it could match its own level in a way and be something unique, another Halloween event to do.
Unless they really press away their lineup for next year, I just don't see. Like, I'd rather wait at least a year on this event. Maybe peak my end of 2024. Hey, if 2023 was definitely a step in the right direction, maybe I'll go back in a couple of years. But yeah, for now, like this is definitely a skip. I want to see Tampa's version next year. That's my desire.
Yeah, that's why I don't understand why SeaWorld went like that when the Tampa event was way better in every single aspect. So I don't quite understand the disconnect between the two parks.
The reason they wanted one SeaWorld is because, of course, the only thing they had in the SeaWorld park for Halloween was for the kids. So they wanted something to compete with Halloween Horror Nights in a way. Because no offense, Tampa.
I understand that, but I don't understand how they could have such a good event in Tampa and such a mediocre event in Orlando. I don't understand.
Well, do they share the same? Do they share the same budget? I mean, I don't think they share profits.
Well, it's the same company.
Yeah, they have to share
Right?
profits. Pretty sure they do.
SeaWorld owns all the parks, so.
Well, not SeaWorld itself. It's a different company.
SeaWorld, when Busch Gardens and SeaWorld merged, SeaWorld was the surviving corporate entity. So everything, all those parks are under the umbrella of SeaWorld now, corporate-wide. I don't know how they manage it internally, but that's kind of like not. Obviously, these parks share a lot, because Busch Gardens Williamsburg has their Howl-O-Scream event too.
I've heard a lot of good things from Williamsburg.
Yeah. But I was really happy with the Busch Gardens event. I mean, the Busch Gardens event was only like, I think with my discount, I got a ticket for like $45 or something.
Man.
And I went in September, and it was so empty. There was no need to buy an express pass for it. You could pretty much just walk on almost anything. And that was a really enjoyable night. I really I got to do all the houses at least twice.
Nice.
Yeah, saw their show. They have their show is Fiends, their big show. Clearly inspired by Bill and Ted's. It's a pop culture parody show. Just with it's the same idea, just different characters. It was pretty good. Maybe not the best one I've seen. I've been there a number of times. I've seen that number quite a few times. But the houses are overall like way better. So much more detail. There's more actors. Also, Busch Gardens, their houses employ a lot more animatronics that are on motion sensors.
Okay.
So even when you're in rooms where they don't have actors, there's usually an animatronic that will go off when you cross the motion sensor, which is pretty cool. So something you'll just be walking along the walkway, you won't see anything, and suddenly you trigger it and it pops out like right in front of you, which is kind of cool.
Oh no! Imagine that happened with the Chupacabra house. Oh man, I'd be freaked out.
Yeah, so I think that's a clever way, obviously to fill in. I mean, a lot of this is going to do the labor cost too, I mean, if it wasn't due to high labor costs, they probably would have had actors in there. But unfortunately, you reach the point where the animatronic is cheaper than paying the person to be there. So
Unless the animatronic breaks and then it costs more money to fix
Oh
the
yeah.
animatronic than hire an actor.
you're not very sophisticated animatronics, so they're not going to cost much. But it worked out really well. They had some really nice. They had some fun houses. The one that made me laugh, they had the. I don't know if it's supposed to be funny or not, but it made me laugh. They had the car horror Christmas one. So it's Christmas, but there's horror occurring, and it's kind of like a demented, twisted Christmas thing, with death and destruction.
Oh,
Yeah.
so like the new David Harbour movie, Violent Night.
Yeah. Maybe it's kind of inspired by that idea. But yeah, there's kind of and you meet a rude version of Santa Claus in the ride. I mean, in the house. And he has a number. He is a live actor. He makes a number of comments as you go by. I went through that one like 3 times because it just made me laugh. And he says different things at different times, and just it's kind of like really not a Santa Claus line at all.
Has anyone ever seen Silent Night 2 or Silent the 80s movie where the garbage day line comes from?
I haven't.
No, I don't know that one.
I know there was a horror film called Merry Xmas. But anyway, Raul, why don't you go ahead and get started with some of the houses, some of the houses at Halloween Horror Nights that you liked.
Okay, I'm gonna go with like top 5 houses.
Okay.
Speaking of houses,
There we go.
I'll go based on the park map here just to help me remember names.
Mine are side.
Oh, okay.
Oh, la di da. My number 1 house is gonna be Dead Man's Pier, Winter's Wake. That's my number 1 house. It is beautiful. I love the scares there, and I'm a sucker for the lighthouse and the violin lady. Like,
she was great.
and also,
Amazing.
I also have
highlight.
and one of my friends works that house.
That one felt really immersive.
What do you say, sorry, Kurt?
That one I felt was very immersive.
Yeah, especially when you feel the water and everything, like you're at the pier.
It's the best original house by far at the event.
My second favorite is you're gonna potentially call me biased because I'm a Halloween fan. Halloween
That's fair.
by Michael Myers.
It was a great house.
It is a great house. Even though
Yeah,
they did
got
it,
me several times at that house.
yeah, especially towards the end, because for me, when I went, the towards the end before you get into that final room, I didn't know where to go because again, this is the year they brought the curtains back and everything. So I was a little bit lost. I didn't know if I was supposed to go left, right. I was like, I don't know what was going on. The next thing I know, I see Michael come up to me, raped to my face, and then he's like being shot at. I'm like, where do I go? Where do I go? And I just ran into the room, and there's multiple Michaels. I'm like, fuck.
Oh no!
And also, I gotta love as you pass the beginning scene of where he kills his sister, and you get into the dark hallway with the original John Carpenter like intro, and you feel the film reel. I love that. Even though we saw it in 2014, I did love how they did really go with a different perspective, and they actually go with it. My number 3, just because I'm a classic Universal buff, it's gonna be Universal Monsters Legends Collide.
That was my number 1.
I love that house. Kurt. The reason I love that house is
box.
I will say I don't get when people say, "Oh, I don't understand the story." Well, the story's in the queue. You just have to listen, and then also if you do some research, the story may be complicated, but it's pretty simple. Wolfman Talbot is trying to look for a way to break the curse of the wolf. Dracula is trying to find the amulet for power, and Dracula uses the mummy as a way, and basically it's a battle of who gets the amulet. And then depending on which time you go, there's different winners. I got the Wolfman killing Dracula, holding his head, and the mummy is like dead to the side. Sometimes you can get Dracula dead, the mummy wins, and Wolfman is dead, and Dracula wins one, and so on and so forth. So there's different winners every time. depending on when you
Yeah,
go.
I was lucky enough to see all 3 endings.
And then for me, number 4 is going to be a very surprise, The Weekend House.
Yeah, I think. All,
I actually.
Mhm.
What
No,
were
I
you gonna
think
say?
I think that was definitely highly rated for all of us here. That was my number 2 house at the event.
Except for Kurt. Kurt didn't get it.
I think Kurt put it like in his
I
bottom
think it was
5.
bad. No, I put it. I think I agree about where Raul put it.
4? Okay, yeah.
Oh,
A lot of
okay.
people.
Just because I was very surprised. I was very like, I don't want a Weekend House, but after then going through it, waiting in the line, hearing the music, and then going seeing the house, I think it's one of my favorite, not favorite, but like favorite music houses besides the Alice Cooper house that we had a few years back. Although I think that house was very interesting because it was rock and roll and everything.
Yeah, one of the things that I said about the Weekend House was I didn't expect that from him. I didn't expect this guy to actually have a horror bone in his body. So when we went through the house, I was pleasantly surprised, especially that thing with the subway car at the very end.
Yeah.
Because like lights and horns, yeah, I figured, but this thing actually gets closer to you. I love that.
There's some good effects in the house too, and to me, it was a
It's
good.
ama-
It was a good flow of story as well.
Yeah, especially if you've even never seen the music videos. Although I will say, if you've seen it, it helps
So much
understanding
better.
some of the things.
So much better when you watch the videos. Yeah.
Okay, now what's your number 5 house?
My number 5, I'll be honest, it's kind of hard. Like I'll say my number 5 and number 6 will flip. If I had to pick a number 5, I will have to go with Descendants of Destruction.
Oh wow, that's
Because
surprising. Go on.
yeah, the reason I picked that one as my number 5 because when I went through it, I did not know why. It just reminded me a lot of. I don't know if anyone has seen the Demolition Man movie with Sylvester Stallone.
I've seen a review of it, but I never actually saw the whole thing from beginning to end. Kurt, have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
Well, if you ever get a chance to watch it, towards later on in the movie, they go into the underground sewer city, basically the city where they're able to basically not necessarily follow the rules upstairs, because upstairs basically is like if you curse, you get fined, and all this other stuff. So down there they can eat meat and all that other stuff, but that's not the point. Is like if you see the movie and go to that part, you'll understand my reference with that. It's just when I went through it, I liked that you got this underground mutants, you got like meat, that's human, and then it just reminded me a lot, like I said, of that, and then some other movies I've seen of New York in a post-apocalyptic. My number 6, like I said, I flip it kind of almost. But my
Sure.
number 6 is Bugs Eaten Alive.
Yeah.
Because this one, some of you might know this reference more. Fallout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Video game
Especially
stuff.
the very beginning where you have that motto. It's like, look at this new product. It reminded me a lot of those like infomercials back from that time period.
Yeah, it's
And then
Americana, 50s Americana.
50s Americana, and then gone bad, all the insects attacking, the spiders, the giant cockroaches. Like it reminded me also of those like 30s and 40s like monster bug movies. What's the number am I at? Number 7?
Yeah.
All right. My number 7, I would put Blumhouse at number 7.
Really down the list.
It was down on my list too. That was my number 8.
Okay, here's the thing. For me, if the freaky portion was as strong as the black phone portion, I would put it maybe at number 5. Or maybe even number 6. Oh, the thing is, freaky was fun. It's okay, because I went with a friend who is like 50-50 on horror movies. I'm trying to get them into it more. And they really enjoy Freaky. And one of the favorite lines is, you're leaving me here with fucking Murder Barbie. If you've seen the movie, you know the reference. So every time, the actress popped up, they would go, Murder Barbie! Murder Barbie! The actress, loved it and everything. But Black Phone for me, if it was an entire Black Phone house, I would rate the Black Phone House maybe number 5 or 4, higher because Black Phone portion was great. But the thing I didn't like about Blumhouse, Freaky, like I said, not the strongest, but also not the weakest. It's also the fact that when you finish Freaky, you have this disconnect
Yep,
before you get to the
Yeah,
next part.
that brought it
we
down
said
for me.
Yeah,
we said
because other Blumhouse houses, regardless of what you'll say about them, at least you go from one movie to another movie and it's all kind of connected. You don't feel like you're in that empty hallway. There was apparently rumors that they were going to add like a chainsaw person or something like in between while you were waiting. But like they could have added something like a black curtain, or they could have done like something like Halloween where you had a film reel going and had the title Black Phone going as you're going through, hearing noises and stuff like that. That's why Blumhouse for me number 7. Number 8 for me is, I will say, Spirit of the Coven.
Ooh.
I enjoy the 19 speakeasy and stuff. I would say like I don't know. I would rate Coven higher. Like it's not a terrible house. I really enjoy it. It's just some of the witches costume it could have been done better, and some of the witches costume felt like it wasn't 1920s. Like when I think 1920s, I think of flapper dresses, Great Gatsby kind of thing. But a lot of the witches were dressed like from colonial time, so it kind of felt off.
Mm.
Great house, although especially the mine portion, the mine card that comes at you. I love that. And then the one I wish. That's the other part that saved it. Number 9, Fiesta de Chupacabra.
really, you're putting
That's
that
pretty
in
low.
way.
Yeah. Number
For
6
me,
for
I
me.
would. Yeah, for me, I don't know. Like for me, I wasn't scared that much. I enjoy it. Like I have fun. I go, "Viva la Chupacabra!" But every time I saw the Chupacabra, I thought this is like a cat on crack.
Yeah. It did seem more feline than I guess canine goat
Yeah.
killer that it's known for, but I didn't mind. It was well made.
Oh, come on. What's wrong with that feline? Look at it.
Like, there's nothing wrong with the feline, but the cat look like, because for me, whenever I think of Chupacabra, I don't know if anyone's ever seen Futurama. I always think it's something like maybe it's not even Futurama. I always think of Chupacabra as like not like Bigfoot size, but like something that's big, standing, like something that you can be scared of and stuff like that. And it just looked like a mean old putty cat. And like I
so
said,
you
hmm?
so you picture this thing being anthropomorphic, not standing with all fours.
Not feral, yeah.
Like I don't know, like if I got scared more from the American World in London animatronic than that, like I don't know, like don't get me wrong, I got some good scares in there from time to time from either the actors or the puppet when I didn't know where the puppet was. But it's just like every time I saw it, it's like this cat looks like it's on crack. But also to be fair, the first time or two I went, some of the scares were off or they were missing people at one point.
Oh
So
no.
I feel like a Chupacabra might be, let's say, number 7 or so. If the experience was a little bit different, I would say if I had to move, maybe Chupacabra above Coven, just because now looking back, I have a little bit more fun. But again, I have to put them somewhere. Like it's not really necessarily they're bad houses, but it's like I'm going for my most favorite to
Right.
like.
Right. And if you were to
And
go
then,
again, that like can possibly change. I mean, I'm sure
yeah,
if I go in again, maybe classic monsters may not be top house. Maybe the weekend will top it off. Maybe bugs will
exactly.
top it off. Who knows? Depending.
Yeah, like again, nothing against Chupacabra. All the actors did great jobs. The puppeteering was great. Like the Chupacabra itself, design, like I wish it would have been more, like not necessarily feline. I was just hoping when I think of Chupacabra, I want something to look like it's a mix of different animals, not necessarily just looks like one animal, you know?
Yeah.
And then number 10, Hellblock Horror.
Yep.
For me,
Yeah,
just
we ranked that one pretty low too.
yeah. Again, like nothing against the actors, nothing against the performers. The set design I thought was pretty cool overall. It felt like they took different monsters from different houses or scare zones from previous years and put it all in this house. And whenever people say, "Oh, they sometimes have last minute edition houses because of they lost something," this felt like a last minute house in a way. Because it seems like it was like, okay, we need costumes from other years and stuff. Like, what can we use? Because if you've been here for a few years, as far as like coming to this event, especially we don't even go that far. You guys were here for last year's event.
Yeah.
I was.
Okay. Well, Justin, in the scare zone for Eddie's Revenge, you remember there was an alien-looking guy like in the booth with a saucer.
Yep.
One of them was in this house, and there was other creatures that looked like the Jetty from Case Files and stuff like that. I actually had a friend in that house who played a bat, but I never got a chance to see them because I sometimes miss their set times.
Mhm.
But I will say like it's an enjoyable house. It's not as scary. Although someone said that one of the my friend who sometimes gets scared easily was asked one of the team members like, "What do you rank this house?" And it's like, "Oh, this is one of the worst or one of the scariest." I'm like,
Hmm.
stop lying to them. Like you're literally lying. You may say that this is your house and stuff. You gotta defend it. But I was like, don't lie. Don't say this is the worst. Like
Okay.
I would buy like when we went to the monsters. They said, "Oh, monsters is like the top. If you can handle this one on Universal Monsters, you can handle it on that one. I can believe." But don't tell me Hellblock is the one is gonna scare the living poo poo out of you.
Well, it did for someone behind us when we went through the house.
Oh God.
That was
That guy.
yeah, the guy that got so spooked he had to be helped up by the party behind him.
Yeah. I think he actually fell down, like literally, like it landed on his can.
Probably someone who's just dragged the Hornets. Yeah, this will be fun. I'm never doing Hornets again. Don't make me.
As far as
Okay.
the shows, Nightmare Fuel, I love it. Again, maybe doesn't give me the laughs as Bill and Ted, but I'm just happy. It's a fun show. Again, I also have a soft spot because of the performers. They're all great people. And I haven't seen Ghoulish. I've seen a couple of videos here and there, but I never got the interest in seeing it, not compared to like Marathon of Mayhem.
Mhm.
But all the scary songs, if I had to pick, number one, Graveyard. Number
Yes.
two, Sweet Tooth Revenge, only because I love the story they have that, especially since it's connected in a way with the tribute store and also some of the characters and stuff. Number three, I would have to pick the Witch's Lair by Fast and Furious.
Mhm.
I liked it a lot more than Crypt TV, not because of the Crypt TV itself, because I actually really enjoyed watching the short films and seeing the monsters of Crypt TV. Mostly because Crypt TV felt very cramped.
Oh, you
And
noticed that too.
like when I was taking my group of people around, I always half the time wanted to walk all the way to Simpsons and then back around to Fast and Furious almost to avoid the crowd of people at Crypt TV. And that's even on some super busy nights because since they were still doing social distancing for the most part for several scare actors or some scare actors, they have them on boxes. But also the way they set it up, they could have set it up a lot better, but because of the way it was set up, it felt very cramped. So wheelchairs, even just people or anything, it felt impossible to move. And it I did not like it this time around. It still can be busy, but at least I felt like I could move around overall. Number there was five scare zones, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I like the scarecrow reaping one. I really did that one as well. And supposedly, I keep missing the chainsaw people that are supposed to be in the Simpsons area. Apparently, there are people, and sometimes they're not. So, were they there when you went?
I
Chainsaw
don't
people?
recall seeing them actually.
There
I
were
saw
supposed to be chainsaw
I
people,
saw a
and I saw them
couple.
in the opening night.
Did you mention Pumpkin Lord Zone?
Oh, yeah, I forgot Pumpkin Lord. So I love. Actually, I would say I would switch the graveyard as my number one maybe for the Pumpkin Lord's scares.
Really?
I
The
love the
Pumpkin Lord. Okay. He
put up,
ca-
put up.
Explain. He carried the whole zone for you? Like he was great, absolutely, but
Oh,
it was a tiny
let
zone.
me
It was a
let me
tiny
show you
zone.
the one.
Go ahead.
Let me show you the reason I think of the tiny zone. Give me a second.
I
Yeah,
mean,
speaking of Pumpkin Lord, yeah, I managed to get that signed at the at the signing. They were mostly signing the image that's on Kurt's shirt, but
This is
uh,
because of this guy. I have the hat. I also have a Pumpkin Lord shirt. All hail, Little Boo.
Little Boo.
That's the real reason.
Number one, right? Okay, Graveyard is number one, but number two is gonna be this Scare Zone
Fair
because
enough.
of this guy.
Yeah,
Like-
that was my regret at Hornets. I wish I had stayed for like 10, 15 minutes just watching Pumpkin Lord do his thing. But oh well.
I got sprayed on by the Pumpkin Lord. It was glorious.
That should be like a quote for this video.
Okay, Kurt, why don't you actually tell us a little bit about what Howl-O-Scream at Busch Gardens had and how it was different from what SeaWorld had?
Well, like I said, it's a completely different event. I mean, there's nothing at all in common between the two. I think a lot of stuff at SeaWorld, as you would expect, they kind of had this, not always, but something related to the sea or something related. It's kind of vaguely kind of tying some of the houses together. But Busch Gardens is just a bunch of houses, typical haunted houses. I'll just mention a couple of my favorites. I think I liked one called Stranglewood Estate, which is kind of the more classic haunted house you go through. I thought that was very, very nicely done. Kind of like basically a classic, haunted mansion kind of thing that you walk through with actors and nice sets. I thought it was well done. Went through that one. I think I went through that one 3 times or something. I like that one a lot. Had some good scares. It looked really nice. It was built. The rooms were built out with a lot of props. A lot of things to look at when you go through. Just had fun with that one. The other one I liked is Deathwater Bayou, Blood Moon, which is their werewolf, basically house. That one that's been there. They've had that there for several years, and that one's quite good. So you can see why that one came back. I like that one. That one had some animatronics in it, which is kind of fun. That was good. The other one I liked was the Christmas one, which was called the Residence Home for the Holidays, which I thought was good.
Yeah.
I already talked about that one, so I think that was good. The other two left me a little flat. The Forgotten and Witch of the Woods. They were okay. They just seemed less interesting than the others. But I thought overall they're quite good. Lots of stuff to look at in them. Scare zones I thought were way better than SeaWorld's. Not as elaborate as Universal. They tend to be a bit shorter. This year they kind of had something a little strange. They had like 3 of them in a row on that one long path back where one of the railroad stations is, which seemed unusual. But okay, they had room there, so I guess that's why they put them there. Though I kind of like them overall. I think they did a good job. There's way more set pieces to look at in there, and there's more places for the actors to hide. They had better lighting, reasonable use of fog machines, and they had a guy on the bungee thing.
Yeah.
There'd be a little hidden crevice there when you go around one of the set pieces, and then if you're there at the right point, he would kind of jump out at you on the bungee cord, which is always kind of cool. So I like the scare zones quite a bit. Except for I think one of them, they had one called the Junkyard, which wasn't that interesting. I don't know. It kind of made me kind of vaguely think of Road Warrior kind of thing. It didn't seem that interesting. They had another one called Skeleton Crew, which was kind of like pirates. That wasn't all that interesting. The ones I liked the most was they had one called the Shortcut, which is like you're taking the shortcut through the woods to get somewhere, and it's kind of like was the wrong choice. There's creepy things going on there. The other one called Voodoo, which was pretty good. I guess apparently you stumbled upon like a voodoo thing in the bayou maybe or something, and there's people doing voodoo-y stuff there. What was the other one I really liked? I think it was called Beyond the Veil. Yeah, that was good. Also, in the Shadows was good. Yeah, I guess I liked they had a good combination. I think the more set pieces, more places for the actors to hide, and they had more actors. I think which made them work a lot better.
Yeah.
And they had a lot more detail in all compared to SeaWorld. They had a lot more detail in all the houses. There's way more stuff to look at. The rooms felt really Spartan and empty when you go to SeaWorld by comparison to Busch Gardens. There's lots of stuff in the room. There's totally decorated the rooms, and they're much more narrow. The passageways are much narrower
Good.
So it's a lot more claustrophobic, and there's like if it's like you're in a house, there'll be like furniture and bookcases and stuff, and all the bookcases will have all sorts of books and knickknacks and stuff in it. It just kind of felt there's so much more stuff to see and look at, and felt more like an environment kind of thing, which I really liked. And then they had several shows. I didn't bother to see all of them. The main show, like I mentioned, is Fiends, which is their pop culture, lampooning show, which is pretty good. I kind of get a kick out of that one. They did it well. They, as usual, like with Bill and Ted, they sprinkle in the kind of venturing into the R-rated humor territory. So you don't probably not want to bring the young kids to that one. They had two other shows, but you can also see them. I'm not sure they're really Howl-O-Scream shows because you can also see them during the daytime. One is called they call it the Rolling Bones, which is it's just a rock cover band. They're in costume though, and they have one thing was cool. They had LEDs all around their instruments, whether it's a guitar or a synthesizer or whatever, and the LEDs would go in sync with the music and do different things at different times.
All right.
Kind of a cute little thing to throw in there, a little extra light show thing. But at the end of the day, they're just a cover band. They also had another thing going on called Cirque X Scream, not circus, but Cirque X Scream. This was just a usual, Cirque du Soleil type acts. There's nothing really horror about it whatsoever. There's no horror element. It's just good quality circus acts. Like I say, you could, at least when I was there, you could see it during the daytime too. So they were running it. They had like one showing. I think they had like two showings during the day and one showing at night during the Howl-O-Scream event. Decent show, but you could see those. You just go to the day to see those. The only real show was Fiends. They had another live show called 50-50 Choose Your Fate, which is kind of like quirky game show thing where they have they pick people from the audience to be contestants on it, and it's kind of like horror things, and it's kind of like. I don't know. I didn't really watch much of it. I couldn't really get into that. It's just kind of like, it's just being silly with the audience kind of thing. The whole thing is just to get some simple audience participation. There's no real substance. There's no real horror to it. It's just being goofy with the audience is all that one is. I couldn't really get into it. I was there. I want to go see, I want to go to Haunted House instead. I'd rather spend my time doing that.
Yeah.
But that was the main stuff. For the event, and of course, as usual, Busch Gardens runs their big roller coasters for anybody that wants to go do that too.
Yeah, seems like all of them are open, so kudos to them for keeping the staff for that, and then the houses themselves, and have more characters in SeaWorld. Because SeaWorld, SeaWorld, they closed off a part of the park. Seems like they're understaffed. I think that was the theme of the year. I mean, they have the space. I mean, they could have 7 houses and more scare zones and really push the park open. But maybe maybe they didn't want to go through the Sesame Street area or something. But it was just really weird trying to navigate everything and just feel so closed in and not really choosing where to go.
SeaWorld, it seems directionless to me. They don't seem like they know what they want to do. They're not really doing a top-notch horror event. Universal's already got that in the bag, and they're not doing a family-friendly event because Disney's got that in the bag.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what they've got to do something a lot different if they expect people to come out though. I think because like you said, they're not going to change the houses. They're going to recycle the houses, multiple houses every year. So I don't see any reason to go there again for at least 5 years. Yeah, and that's not really that's not the feeling you want your guests to walk away with, right?
Yeah,
you want your guests leaving wanting to come back for more. Like that's why I buy the frequent fear pass for Universal, because I want to come back and see it multiple times each year. Once through isn't enough for me.
Especially that each experience you go to, I will say, in Halloween Horror Nights, there's something different. Like, especially like, for example, Legends, there's multiple endings, so there's a reason to do that house multiple times.
Yeah. And there's just so much to see as well. But yeah, I think SeaWorld's just gotta they either gotta go all in with the bigger budget, or they kind of maybe they have to give up with it, because I don't know, because what they have now doesn't really work for me. I'd rather go to Busch Gardens, just frankly.
Okay, well, as far as Screamageddon goes, now, first of all, not all the houses were interactive houses. Only 2 were. Okay. And that kind of bummed me out because, again, I wanted to up the ante. Now, when you do get to go through one of these houses, they give you, and you're willing to be messed with, for lack of a better word. They give you this glow in the dark necklace. This tells the actors you're fair game. And the first house I did that at was Blackpool Prison. And I will say too, also, they actually have fully constructed facades for each house. It's not like say Horror Nights where you come up to like a tent that's backstage somewhere, or like in one of the sound stages. No, these people have made fully constructed facades to put in front of each one of the houses. So that's a plus. First impressions are always everything.
Oh yeah.
So I take a necklace, and they decided, since I'm just one guy, they put me with a group that's in front of them. But still, there's no real connections with us. So when I get taken away, it's like, yeah, these people have no idea who I am. What difference does it make?
And they don't care.
Yeah, but they did take the father though, so that that was one thing. And I was hoping they would just grab me by the arm and just yank me aside, but no, even with the waivers, they still can't do that. So I just went, "Come here." Okay, like, come on, like you can at least take me by the arm, okay? But sure, why not? I followed him. He brought us into a cell, and he made us start doing jumping jacks for our freedom.
Okay.
Like, really? That's what you're gonna have us do?
So scary.
Yeah,
I'm terrified.
yeah. But I go along with it, and then finally he opens the cage and decides, you're done. You may leave. So we continue on. We do find the group that we were with, but we get pulled aside again, and this time, this guy makes us dance for our freedom, and he throws on Cotton Eye Joe by Rednecks.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was like, really? Like, that's the song you decide to do? But then he decides to throw on some heavy metal song, like, now you're talking! And so I start moshing, for lack of a better word. And he just cuts the song and says, "You may now leave." And I close the gate and go, "I said not till the song is over." And he goes, "Get out, but I love your enthusiasm."
Gotta keep the line moving, I guess.
Yeah. And then, through the house, we keep going. And again, we get taken aside, and we get forced to watch a surgery film of some sort. Not a real one, obviously. And I'm sitting down. It's been like maybe 3 minutes. I'm thinking, how much longer until we go here?
It's going on a while here.
Yeah. But turns out you can leave whenever you want. So, like, okay, I wish you made that a bit more clear. But still, have fun with it. We catch up with the group and the family, and then we all get taken away and put into this gas chamber. Like, literally, like, it's this weird, like, little wooden box, and there's like maybe 6 of us in there, and they close the door, and there's smoke coming from the ceiling of this thing.
Uh-huh.
So, like, okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. This is I like this. The sets too were pretty awesome. I did like the whole rundown prison thing. I liked the interior that they used, because it was stuff that you would think inmates would do if they ever took over a prison. So I definitely like that. And then suddenly it's getting closer towards the end of the house, and the maze was long too, so that was a plus. And they shove all of us plus like 3 other girls into a cell, but he shoves me in last, and he puts his hand on my shoulder and goes, "Peter Griffin," and I just look at him and go, "Yeah." And he just throws me in the cell, and he goes like, "You guys need to clean my toilet." And no one sees it because the cell is like very small, but sure enough, I see it behind the girls, and there's nothing, like, there's no water in it, but there's like fake blood, there's dirt, and some fake bugs in there. And he's like, get on your knees and clean it. So I'm on my knees with my hand down in this thing. And the girls are freaking out. I'm just going along with it. And it's like, there was a towel for you there, genius. Like, oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. And then I look over the girls and go, here, you're next. And they just freak out.
That's cool.
Like, they're screaming bloody murder. And then the guy says, okay, you're done. You may leave. And then, again, I'm the last guy out. He's like, you've done well, Peter Griffin.
It's just a random nickname he gave you, and just roll with it. There you go. There you go.
But I had a lot of fun with that, especially because, again, I'm a little bit familiar with how these things work. And when you can, like, throw the gags at, like, to the other people who are not that familiar, it's a lot of fun, especially when I just threw the towel at them. It's like, you guys know it's bone dry, right? But the first house I did was one called Rage 3D. And we've seen 3D houses before. It's the kind where you wear these glasses and it's bright color and it makes it look closer than it really is. So you combine that with loud music and the props are dangling in midair. They're covered in this paint, and the multiple different ways you can take. It's really disorienting, but in a good way. It definitely gives you your money's worth. And you were talking earlier, Kurt, about the volume at these houses. Well, these scare actors, they don't get that. They don't get like a giant speaker with a pre-recorded scream or dialogue to say at the guests. They actually have to do it manually. So I feel bad for these people. And there was a moment where you see like this barrel, like those drum barrels that are like filled with like some sort of like chemical or a liquid. There's a wall of them, and they're tumbling down on you, but then they get pulled back. Like, oh, okay, that's different. I like that. They of course had the paintings with that would drop, make the loud thud, and that would scare you. But they wouldn't have an actor behind there. They would actually just have some sort of prop and have that make a loud noise, and that would scare you. It was still effective. But because that one just made me so disoriented, that one was probably my favorite, at least out of the non-interactive houses. The next one that they had on there, pull up the list here, was, I gotta say the best for last on that one, was Raven Asylum. Now, anytime you deal with the asylum setting, that's always creepy.
Yeah.
It's always spooky. And again, we're walking through this thing, and I'm seeing this giant facade, like, ooh, this is going to be so good. And as fun as that house was, there was too many gaps of silence, as I called it, where you're walking through the halls and nothing's happening.
Yeah.
It's like, isn't something gonna happen here? Like, shouldn't there be something? And some of the animatronics they had seemed to be delayed, but I wonder if that was on purpose, because I'm seeing sorry, I'm just looking at my cat. I'm seeing what looks like this person that's pinned to a wall. And I'm thinking, okay, like, when's this thing going to jump up and scare me? And it didn't. And then I'm on the other side of the wall, and that's when the thing gets activated. It activates after I pass it. Now, granted, I'm not seeing it. However, the loud noise and the thud it makes is enough to to scare you. So, okay, I don't know if you planned that, but you still scared me. Bravo. And like, literally, I almost want to say this kind of reminded me of Linda Blair from The Exorcist. Just this person that's like dangling on a wall, and you pass it, you think something's happening. Then she goes like 2 feet into the air, makes a lot of noise, rattles. It will throw you off. So I gotta give them props for that one.
Cool.
Yeah. Then next one was Demon's Revenge. first of all, before I even went into this house, they actually did some weird like seance like out in the food court, because the way how this place is constructed, there's like a hub that's the food court, and then all the houses are connected to it.
Yeah.
So, so in that regard, there's really no scare zones, but there were scare actors walking around the food court looking for people who were not paying attention just to scare them. So, good way to use your resources when you don't have much. But Demon's Revenge, I think was the second other interactive house, and this one they would again pull you aside into a room, and he's like, "So, fat man, you want to work for your freedom? Let's see you rock out." And literally, like, they throw on this rock song. I'm like, "You know who you're talking to?" And I just air guitared the whole thing, and the guy went, "Fat man, I'm impressed." So I keep going, and the next time they pulled me aside, they said that they need to work on my head. So they sit me in this chair with some rando that's behind me that I guess they think is with me, and they're like, "This won't hurt a bit. You might want to close your eyes." And he just like runs something across my head, and I'm trying really hard not to laugh because
Oh
I
no!
well, no, because again, like, I know what the secret is, but the one thing I wish they could have done, which would have actually made it a bit of a surprise, is if they had like a little bit of paint on the prop, so that when they run it across my head, it looks like my head's now bleeding to everyone else. That's something I would have liked to have seen. But one of the other things they did that I was impressed with was they have you lay down on this wooden board and then send your body into a cremator or a cremation machine.
A furnace.
Yeah. A furnace. There we go. Yeah, like literally what you do to burn up dead bodies. That I thought was cool. Like, okay, whoa, I have not seen something like this before. The only thing I would have done differently with that is, you have bricks all around you except for the ceiling. Now, I'm pretty sure they can't put like real bricks there, but it would have been nice if they did like, a brick pattern wallpaper to give that same feeling. And perhaps maybe you can have smoke shoot out from the corners of the furnace, just to kind of again give you that whole feeling of being in a furnace, like you're being cremated. That I thought was cool. Like, bravo, that was a lot of fun. And by the time you get out of the house, you'll notice as you're coming up to the house, there's like this giant fence that's like maybe 10 feet tall, but there's like a hole right there. And I'm wondering, like, what's with that? Why is that there? Well, it turns out that's your exit point. That's where you actually leave. You actually have to bend down and get out, and depending on how tall you are, crawl out of this thing. So that was a lot of fun. And let's see here. Then I did the Bloodwater Bayou. This one was perhaps the most intense because they had chainsaws going. You're always in for a good time when you hear those chainsaws going.
Yep.
And this house is like back in the woods. That was really good because again, you're using your environment to your advantage, and you're walking across this dock too, which again just adds to it. Obviously, there's no water back there, but again, the fact that you have to take a dock over these, really this muddy this mud to experience the house, in my opinion, just really kind of adds to it. And it has this whole voodoo thing because obviously the Bayou, Louisiana story, and you get scared with a few things. Like, of course, you have like the tumbling wall that I mentioned. They also have these giant life-size mechanical headpieces, animatronic headpieces that they would swing out in front of you.
Oh man!
Yeah, like maybe they would roar, their mouths would light up, maybe shoot out a little bit of smoke. And then they had that in several houses. That was good. I like that. But also, if you like slow down a little bit, there was a scare actor right behind you who was trying to, like walking up behind you. Like he's trying to murder you. And there was another scare they did that I thought was actually pretty inventive, where you're walking down a hallway, and then you have like these. It's kind of like a kitchen set. You have your counters, you have your cabinets on top, and you hear the cabinets start to rattle, and the walls actually start coming in on you.
Oh,
yeah. And of course, you duck and you kind of like crawl out of there. But that I thought was cool. I'd never seen that before, especially with both walls coming down on you. And the other thing that they did that I was impressed with was towards the end of the house, they actually had the chainsaw guys, but you're in this tiny little graveyard maze. And the idea is to get out of there while avoiding the chainsaw men. Like, that was cool. That actually reminded me of the old video game Zombies Ate My Neighbors. I love that. And when you made it to the exit, you're walking back on another dock towards the exit. Do not think you're safe, okay? Because there are people camouflaged down in the ground that will jump up and scare you. And there was even a moment in the house where this actress was doing a tarot card reading, and she's like, this is your card. Whatever you do, don't get too close. I'm like, what are you talking about? And this weird snake just pops out of the table right at me. It's like, oh, come on.
yes.
You got me though. But you got me.
Misdirection. They did that at SeaWorld for me too. It's like, hey, look over here. I hear there's wolves in the area. Where? And then out comes the other direction. Dang it.
Yeah. And then they had this zombie paintball attraction. Now that one cost a little bit extra, but I did not mind that because it was a blast. You see, I think I already said this, but still, you see this gutted out bus. It looks like it's been armored up. There's this line of paintball guns. You have your driver as well as the people who are teaching you how to use the gun. And you drive past 5 different zones, plus maybe 2 or 3 target practice areas. And they just give you a cup, put in your a paintballs, put in your gun, and you just start shooting. They actually have scare actors out there who are in costume and obviously padded up, so that you can fire paintballs at these things. And because they're fluorescent, you can see that paintball travel and see where it hits the actors. And because my training is in survival horror with video games, I always try going for the headshot. And because I only had 100 balls to work with, I try to conserve my ammo. So, I mean, you can't pay for more, but it was just what I could afford. And when you drive past the target areas, they have all sorts of things for you to aim at, but they'll try to tell you try to hit the cowbell, try to hit the saw blade, try to hit the machete, and when you hit it, it does ding, so you got so you nailed the target. And they do have this little final boss at the very end that was a lot of fun to shoot at. And I still have maybe 30 balls left, so while we're pulling away, I just want to keep firing my gun at this thing. But that was definitely worth the upcharge. They also had a axe throwing thing attraction that I didn't do.
Right.
Yeah, I just figured look, I could do that anywhere else. They also had some carnival games as well. So for a local haunt, they definitely did a good job. I just wish there was more interactive houses. As far as whether or not I could recommend this thing, it's pretty far out there. So I would only recommend it if you are heading in that direction and if you're going with a group of people. Because being separated from your group, as I said, is part of the fun. You don't know where they are, you're separated. That's what kind of adds to the anxiety. And when you're there all by yourself, it doesn't really mean much. And the other thing too, I would say, is that when it comes to these local haunts, because they can't change out houses, I would recommend only going once, maybe twice a year, just because you don't want to get used to where all the scares are. If you go like 3 times in a month, you're gonna remember where everything is.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to conserve that feeling, don't overdo it. And while they can't, I was told it could get long. I went on like maybe a Tuesday or a Wednesday. There wasn't that many people there. So under those conditions, yeah, check it out.
Yeah, I mean, from what I'm looking at, especially some of the claustrophobic design, especially that Bayou house, it certainly looks like something that I would enjoy. But yeah, I wouldn't do what you did. Like, I would definitely go with you guys or some people that really want to experience something else. Because I've been to a local haunt known as Petrified Forest, and they do a good job there. But this seems like an even bigger evolution of that, and it's like, whoa, this is pretty intense, man. Like, I think
Mhm.
I think I enjoy it. Although the interactive portions of it, I mean, I don't know. Sure, it sounds interesting, but it's like it's still RNG. Like, you can go multiple times to maybe see if you get picked, but like, how is the experience compared for people who don't get picked? Like, how's the rest of the house for them? If you can
You get,
elaborate on that, or you just
uh,
watch.
I honestly have no idea because I wasn't there. So I don't know how their experience was different, but I can tell you though, out of the group they stuck me with, only the dad wore the glow in the dark necklace. Only he volunteered to be abducted.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so some people are willing to do it, some aren't. Is it worth doing? Oh, sure, absolutely. You definitely want to add more to your experience whenever you go to these things.
Yeah, imagine maybe for one through you can have it on, the other one just take it off, so you can kind of see both aspects of it
Mm-hmm.
if you want. 'Cause there's got to be
Mm-hmm.
something.
Yeah,
And how long were the houses usually? Like 10 minutes each or so? Like pretty lengthy?
I'd say
Or
so. Yeah, that sounds about right.
yeah, pretty lengthy, especially where you're on the bus that goes around the course. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and you're shooting at these targets and live actors, and kudos to them that they don't get tired of being shot at. That's a lot of paintballs, man. I've been hit by paintballs before, and they can hurt when they pile up.
Yeah, there's a reason why people switched over to airsoft.
Yep, I remember the
I
bruises
mean,
that I got.
it's still not soft, but it's cheaper. But also, Kurt, you said you wanted to talk a little bit about some of the local haunts in your area.
Yeah, I don't have too much to say about them. I've actually been to several other, I wouldn't call them haunts. I've four other Halloween events. 3 of them were family-friendly events. There's not a whole lot to say about them. It's mostly just decorations and some family-friendly entertainment. That's unfortunately, California's Great America canned their haunt event this year, replaced with a family-friendly event, which sucks.
Of
And
course.
then Six Flags Discovery Kingdom drastically scaled back their event this year, and I'd say it sucks as well. So that was kind of a big disappointment in that regard. There's basically nothing really good going on locally right now out here in Northern California.
Hmm.
The Six Flags one, they totally changed it. It used to be included with admission. Now they have a separate event happening at nighttime, and it's a separate fee. It's sort of like the Halloween Horror Nights business model. Fortunately, it's included in my pass, so I didn't have to pay extra. But they went from, they usually had 5 or 6 houses. Now they only have 2 actual houses this year.
Wow,
And
that's
they have
barely worth going
they only
to.
have like, yeah, the scare zones are minuscule. The scare zones are like 20 feet long. It's just a joke. I think the problem is, I think Six Flags is just hurting so bad from the pandemic. They have no money and they don't know what to do, and they're charging an arm and a leg for this event too, which is kind of ridiculous. It's $40 just to get into the event, and if you want to go through it, and if you want to get the $70 if you want to get express for the houses,
Oh,
which is like there's only 2 houses.
yeah, that's a ripoff. Let's charge
There's
market price.
Yeah, they have one more. They call it a house, but it's actually outdoors. It's actually an elaborate scare zone that you walk through linearly, and they have actors in it and stuff. And there's different areas, so it's kind of like a house, an event in the sense there's different rooms, but it's actually just all outdoors.
Mhm.
And what they've done is all the houses that they have. If we want to be generous and call, they have 3 houses. All they did was rearrange all the props and set pieces they had from the prior years into this. It's like it was so disappointing. It's just like, oh God, you know.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and then of course, Haunt is gone at Great America, and so that's just a family-friendly event now. I got to mention the other 2 family-friendly events I went to. Going home from Florida, I stopped at Dollywood in Tennessee and Silver Dollar City in Missouri. Both those parks are actually owned by the same company, so not really surprising that they have very similar events, but they have highly decorated, kind of family-friendly events. Nothing scary at all about them. Very pretty to attend. They got good roller coasters and stuff, so it's kind of fun to be there. But not really much going on other than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, didn't get down to Southern California this year. Maybe next year.
Mm-hmm. And to finish up this Streamcast, I want to talk about what I showed these guys. Perhaps the most extreme haunted attraction there is. It's called McCamey Manor.
Oh no.
Yeah. Admission is a bag of dog food. You have to sign a 45-page waiver to do this. You need a medical notice from your doctor saying you are physically and mentally okay to do this. They call the cops to let them know that they're doing a tour, and if someone calls and says, these guys tried to murder me, don't worry, it's just us. A tour can last anywhere between 6 to 13 hours, but supposedly, and I forgot to mention, they borderline torture you.
Yep.
I'm talking dunking your head underwater, letting creepy crawlies crawl over you, possibly putting them in your mouth. If you barf, they may make you take it and wipe it on your face. But supposedly, if you can last the entire tour, you win $20,000.
Not worth it. Absolutely. Not even for an hour of it. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Has anybody ever gotten the prize?
No one's gotten the prize.
There you go. Not
Yeah,
worth
so
it.
that's not going to happen. It basically says that they'll make sure that's not going to happen. Is what it's saying. So this is kind of a controversial area. In my opinion, this is not horror. This is not a haunted house experience. This is just a bondage S&M experience. It's just to torture you. It's just to abuse you. I don't know. To me, this is absolutely nothing to do with horror. This is just abuse.
And apparently there's people, when they do this, they'll actually record you, broadcast it, and supposedly people in Vegas will bet on the people they think will last the longest.
No, I don't want that attention infamy for that. That's oof.
And you also have to wear a onesie too, like an adult onesie for some reason. But this is what I think is going on, because there was a lawyer who actually who kind of went over the waiver and what they do at this place to give his legal thoughts on it. And from what he said, it does appear that some of this stuff is done just for the cameras, because you'll notice that in one of the videos, it looks like they're forced to sign the waiver on camera. Well, by law, you're not allowed to do that. You cannot force somebody to sign a waiver or a contract by force. So that was done prior. So the waiver was signed prior to this. The second is the guy who runs this, Russ McCamey, is a retired Navy veteran. So what I'm wondering is what he's putting these people through military training exercises just done in the context of horror. You know, instead of being like on some government military facility, you're in this dark, dingy, wherever it takes place. And because I'm looking at some of the stuff that he's doing, and I'm just wondering, like, well, wait, this guy was in the military. Is it possible that they train, like, is this part of like the training regiment if you were to get captured? Maybe, because I do know that I may not be a huge military enthusiast, but I do know that they do train you for if you get captured. I mean, you're not always lucky. Like, unlike the CIA, they don't get a cyanide pill. So I'm wondering if that's what's going on. And matter of fact, in the video that I showed you guys, the woman they actually had on there, she was from Kuwait. And this was her second time doing this.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and what I'm also wondering is if the waiver they have to sign is meant just to build up anxiety. Because again, going back to what the lawyer said, some of the stuff on there says like, we may put you in a barrel, then throw you into the water. We may do, some other, very torturous activity. So I'm wondering if the waiver is meant to build up this person's fear and anxiety and stress so that when they go through with this and they don't go that far, they'll still have that same reaction if they were to have gone that far. And that woman, when there was a moment where she actually did get cut and she was bleeding on her foot, and everything sounded like, whoa, guys, she's bleeding. Ma'am, are you okay? Do you want us to keep going? Okay, are you sure? Like, they made sure she was fine first. But she was willing, but she wanted to keep going. So I have to wonder if this is like all a mind game here. And when it was done, like they were all celebrating back at the house, and they all said like they said like, "Lady, you are one tough chick." So yeah. So part of me just wonders if there's more going on here.
Too sketchy.
I still say this is just a BDSM experience. That's all it is.
Seems like it.
Sorry.
It seems like it.
That's definitely there's nothing else there. There's people, obviously we know there's people who want that, right?
I guess if this is like their bucket list item, I'm gonna do this once, never do it again. I'll be famous by getting tortured.
I mean, if the prize money is real, and if I were to go in with the theory that I have in my head of what this actually is, part of me wonders, like, could I actually pull this off? But I'm pretty sure my diabetes would disqualify me in an instant.
Yeah.
There's no time limit to it, is there?
I've
Minimum
heard
6 hours.
Minimum of 6 hours. Some people have said it can go between 12 to 13.
Yeah, but what if you keep going? I mean, can't they just keep extending the time until you eventually give up? Until you can never, you can never claim the prize.
I don't know. I've never read the. I haven't read the entirety of their quote rules. We'll say.
Right. So if there's no time limit on it, then that means you could never win the prize because they'll just keep dragging it out longer until you like pass out from exhaustion or something. And then
or until they realize I give up.
No, they'll just keep changing staff, and they can keep going. Their staff can take a break while other people come in. I'm pretty sure this is one of these things where it's impossible to win the prize.
Yeah, all asks for dog food, and somehow keeps us running. Doesn't get.
Yeah, and the guy.
I don't know.
Where's the profit for this? Like, how long has he been doing this? How long will we keep doing this? That's my question.
Well, it used to be in California. Now it's in Tennessee. Probably because you can only get away with something like that in Tennessee.
Yep.
And the guy is, he's either married or he has a girlfriend. He has kids. The only money he gets is a retirement check from the Navy. To him, he sees it as theater. No one's ever died doing this thing. One person had a heart attack, though. But yeah, that's McCamey Manor. If you're going to look it up, just do it at your own risk.
Yeah, really.
All right. That about does it here for us at Park Geeks. We're hoping on the next episode we can actually have someone who's had a hand in building some of these attractions. If you can make it, great. If not, we'll have something else planned for you guys. Until next time, this is the Park Geeks. Happy Halloween, everyone.
Yep. See you next time, guys.